Cutiecalities, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to show you guys how to crochet this amazing halter top. So I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, make sure you give a massive thumbs up and also don't forget to subscribe so you can join the Cutiecality family. So let's begin with the tutorial. So for today's project I'm going to be using a measuring tape, a tapestry needle, a 3.5mm hook, and a small pair of scissors. And for my yarns I'm going to be using the same ones that I did my two previous videos here on YouTube, so the yellow one and the cream. And I'm also going to be using the small granny square that I showed you guys how to crochet in one of my previous videos, and I also have a written pattern for this one. So I'm going to be linking everything in the description below for you guys to check it out. So this is a little sketch of how I want my top to look like, so you can see the granny squares right here and then the halter neck. I'll probably have a little kind of like a different pattern right at the top, but I'm not sure yet because I don't have it done now, but on the way I'll explain everything to you guys. So for the straps right here at the top and on the back, I'm still thinking what I want to do. So probably I'm going to just tie around my neck and then the back just a crisscross, or maybe I'm going to be doing a chain starting from here and then crisscross on the back. So just play around and choose how you want it to create the straps and everything. So the only measurement that you guys have to take is armpit to armpit. I'm going to be putting a picture right here somewhere in the video so you can see how to take this measurement, but it's basically putting the measuring tape from this armpit all the way to the next one and then take the measurement. My one is 40 centimeters, but of course you remember that you guys can always create a little extension right here on the sides and then close on the back. You can do many different changes, but I decided to do this way. And another way that you guys can take the measurement is using a top that you already have. This one is very stretchy, so it's a really good one to take the measurement. So you guys will be putting the measuring tape just under your armpit right here on the top, and then going all the way across and then measuring from here. My one is 38 centimeters, but I decided to round to 40 centimeters, so I just have a little bit more room, but you guys can actually just follow exactly the same measurement as the top. And if you guys want to know how many granny squares to make, you're just going to be putting on top of the top the granny squares when you're making, and then you're just going to know exactly how many granny squares to make. So I have 4 here. And when you guys are putting the granny squares on top of the top, just make sure that you put very close to the armpit, so you get this area right here, which is the boobs and the armpit, and then the top is going to fit you perfectly. And also, if you guys want to know the measurement for my granny square, it's 10.5 centimeters on both sides. And if you guys want to make in a different pattern, then just follow the measurement and the top is going to be perfect. So once you have enough squares to cover this area, we can start with the project. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is sewing the squares together. So you just put them like this, the right side facing you. So you're just going to be putting one on top of each other like this, and then you're just going to be sewing here. And then you're going to be putting this one, and then you're going to be sewing right here. And then after, you're going to be putting this one on top, and then you're going to be sewing right here. So to sew the squares together, I'm going to be using a little bit of the yarn. And it's going to be the same color as you did the square around the flower. And then I'm going to be using my tapestry needle. You can double the yarn, but I'm just going to be using one. And then I'm just going to be starting sewing, and then when I have all of them completed, I'll come back and then we are going to be starting with the top. So this is how it looks like once you sew them together. And now we are going to be creating one row here right at the top. So we can start with the top, and then we are going to be creating one row with single crochets. So I'm going to be attaching my yarn right at the beginning, and then we are going to be chaining one and creating all of the single crochets all the way down. So I am still going to be using my cream yarn. If you want to change the color, that's completely up to you. So I'm just going to be creating a slip knot. and I'm going to be attaching right here in the corner. So I have 3 chains here. So in the middle one, that's where I'm going to be attaching my yarn. So now to create the single crochets, you're going to be chaining 1. So you're going to be skipping 1 stitch, so the next one, and then into the next stitch you're going to be creating your first single crochet, and then you're just going to be continuing creating your single crochets all the way down. So when you get here in the sewing, you're just going to be creating a single crochet in the space available, so into this one, and then a single crochet just on top of the sewing. Just find this stitch here, and then another single crochet into the space available. And then this is basically what you're going to be doing throughout the entire row. So now to match the other side, here at the end you're just going to go through the first chain and create a single crochet, and then through the next one and creating your last single crochet. So now we are going to be working with double crochets and no decreases. So we are going to be creating a few rows, and it's just to have a base for the halter part, but it's basically just to cover a little bit of your boobs and before your nipples. And I'm going to be putting a little footage right here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So now you're going to be choosing where you want your top to start, so basically the bottom of the top, and then you're going to be now creating as many rows as you need with only double crochets. So I'm going to be starting right here, so chaining 3 and then turning my project. So for the double crochets, you're going to be skipping the very first stitch when you chain 3, and then jumping into the next one, creating your first double crochet. So now you can just continue creating all of the double crochets until you get to the end of the row. So I'm here on my last 2 stitches, so you're just going to be creating double crochets, and then on the last one as well. And then you're going to be chaining 3, turn your project, skipping the very first stitch into the next one, a double crochet, and then you're going to be creating double crochets all the way down again, just like the previous row. So I'm here into my last 3 stitches, so you're just going to be creating 3 double crochets. And also make sure that in every row you get the very last stitch, so your project is going to be straight and it's not going to be curved or anything like that. This is how it's going to look like once you have 2 rows completed with only double crochets and no decreases. And if you guys can see, the project is going to be kind of like curved a little bit, but that's completely fine. It's just because we are creating the double crochets on top of the squares, but once you create more rows and the halter neck, you will see that that's going to be fixed. So now the next step is going to be to create the halter neck. So if you guys want, you can create more rows for the base. I'm just going to be doing 2 rows, and then I'm going to go straight away now for the halter neck, because I do want to have a very deep halter neck. If you guys want to have a little wider halter neck, then you guys can just create a few little more rows with only double crochets, and then you're just going to be having kind of like a halter neck, kind of like that big. But I want to create a halter neck that is a little bit more kind of like smaller right at the top. So I'm going to be stopping now with the double crochets and go straight away for the decreases. And I'm going to be decreasing 2 double crochets on each side, so 2 on this side and 2 on this side. So for this part, you guys will not be chaining or anything at the beginning right here. You're just going to be turning your project, and then we are going to be working right here, so I'm going to be zooming in here for you guys. So for the beginning of the row, we are not going to be chaining or anything at the beginning. We are going to be skipping the chain plus the very first stitch, moving into the next stitch and creating a single crochet. And then we are going to be chaining 2. And then on the next stitch, we are going to be creating our first double crochet. And in the next 2 stitches, we are going to be creating a decrease as well. So you're going to be creating the first part of the double crochet into the next stitch, and then you're going to be yarning over the first 2 loops in the hook, keeping the last one in the hook, and then you're going to be doing the same into the next stitch, and then yarning over the first 2 loops in the hook, and then keeping 3 in the hook, and then yarn over the last 3 loops in the hook. So this is how we are going to be creating the decrease for the beginning of the row, and then I will show you guys at the end. So now you can just continue with the double crochets until you have 5 stitches left. And if you want, you can also place a stitch marker right at the chain that we've created at the beginning so you don't get lost. So at the end, you're also going to be doing 2 decreases, and I have here my 5 stitches left. So on the very first 2 that you can find, you're going to be doing the decrease as I showed you guys at the beginning of the row. So on the next stitch that you can find, you're going to be doing the first part of the double crochet, yarning over the first 2 loops in the hook, keeping the last one in the hook, and then also into the next one, and then keeping the last 3 loops in the hook, and then yarning over all of them together. So this is our first decrease, and then into the next stitch, just a normal double crochet. And in the last 2 stitches, we are going to be creating the same decrease as we did on this one right here. So you're going to be doing the first part of the double crochet, yarning over the first 2 loops in the hook, keeping the last one in the hook, and then again for the very last stitch. And then you're going to have 3 loops in the hook, and then you're just going to be yarning over all of the loops together. So this is how you're going to be decreasing at the beginning of the row and at the end, as I showed you guys now. So now you're going to be turning the project, so no chaining or anything like that. So now we are going to be repeating the same as we did in the previous row. So we're skipping the chain in the very first stitch. Into the second stitch, we are going to be doing a single crochet, and then chaining 2, and then a normal double crochet into the next stitch. You can place the stitch marker in the chain at the beginning if you want. And then in the next 2 stitches, we are going to be creating the decrease. And then you're just going to be continuing with the double crochets until you have 5 stitches left at the end of the row. So when you have 5 stitches left, you're going to be doing a decrease on the very first 2 stitches. And then on the third one, you're going to be doing a normal double crochet. And then on the last 2, you're also going to be doing a decrease. So this is how you're going to be doing the decreases to create the halter neck. And now the next step is just to continuing making as many rows as you want to create your halter neck. So I'm going to be continuing with the rows, and when I have the halter neck that I want, I'll come back and I'll let you know how many rows I did. And also remember that you guys can do as deep or as wide you want your halter neck. I just decided to do this way, but you can do any other way that you want. And also if you guys want, you can decrease 1 double crochet on each side, and that's going to help it to be a little bit wider, the halter neck. So I'll come back when I have all of the rows completed. So this is how it looks like once you have a few rows completed with the decrease. So I have here 2 rows with only double crochets, and then I have 12 rows with a decrease. So now the next step is just to continue with the halter top. So I'm just going to be continuing a little bit, but instead of using the double crochets, I'm going to be changing the pattern, and we are going to be doing the last 4 rows that we have to do for this part. And if you guys want to know how many stitches I have right here at the top, I have 23 stitches. And also if you guys want to know the measurement that I have at the moment, it's 18 centimeters. So now I'm going to be stopping with the decreases, and if you guys want, you can continue with the double crochets. Then you can just do 4 more rows with the double crochets, but if you're doing exactly the same as I'm doing, then you just follow the next steps. So the first row we are going to be doing squares, so you're going to be chaining 4, and then you're going to be turning the project. So now you're going to be skipping the very first stitch and the next one. In the third stitch, you're going to be doing your first double crochet. And then you're going to be chaining 1, skipping the next stitch, into the next one, a double crochet. And then you're just going to be repeating the same pattern all the way down. So at the end, you're just going to be chaining 1 and then finding a very last stitch and creating a double crochet. So for the next row, we are going to be using the same pattern for the square. So this one right here, and then we are going to be using the squares to create the pattern. So first you're going to be chaining 4. And then you're going to be turning the project. and then you're going to be skipping the first square. Into the next one, you're going to be creating 3 double crochets. Chain 1, skip a square. Into the next one, 3 double crochets. And then you're just going to be repeating the same pattern all the way down. So when you get at the end, you're just going to be copying the same as we did for the beginning, chaining 1 and then finding a very last stitch and creating a double crochet. So now we are going to be doing the next row with the squares. So you're going to be chaining 4. So to create the squares, you're going to be skipping a stitch. Into the next one, a double crochet, and then chain 1 and then skip a stitch. Into the next one, a double crochet. And then you're just going to be repeating that all the way down. And also just make sure that you have the same numbers of squares as the very first row with the squares. So I have 11 here, and then I have 11 into this row right here. So now you're going to be doing another row exactly the same as the second one. So chain 4, turn project, and then skip a square. Into the next one, 3 double crochets, and then chain 1, skip a square, 3 double crochets, and then just repeat that all the way down. And then at the end, you're just going to be chaining 1 and then finding a stitch and then creating a double crochet. So this is how the finishing of my halter neck looks like. As you can see right here, it's very narrow, and that's how I want it to look like. And as I told you guys, you can do a little bit more wider, okay? But that's going to be up to you how you want to change the project. So now the next step is just to create single crochets. This is optional, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to be creating single crochets all the way around my halter top, even on the bottom right here, side, and then I'm going to be going all the way up here. So you're going to be chaining 1, turning, and then from here you're just going to be starting with the single crochets, and then you're just going to be finding a stitch and then creating a single crochet, and you're going to be doing that into every stitch that you can find. Even on the sides that you don't really have a stitch, you're going to be doing also a single crochet. So just find a stitch and create a single crochet all the way around. So when you get back at the top, you're just going to be finding a stitch, and then you're just going to be creating a slip stitch just to connect both sides together. And then you can chain 1 and fasten off. So now for the straps, I'm going to be using the yellow yarn. If you want, you can do the same color as the project, but that's going to be up to you. So this is how it looks like, and we're nearly finished. The only thing that we have to do is to create the straps. And I'm going to be starting from here, and then I'm going to be creating a very long chain just to go all the way to the back and then create a crisscross. So now you can choose which side to start. I'm just going to be attaching my yarn right here and then starting my chain. And then I'm going to let you know how many chains I'm doing. So first thing that I like to do is just to create a slip knot and then attaching to my project. And I'm going to be attaching my yarn into the spaces here in the corner right at the top. And then from here I'm going to be starting with my chain, and then I'm going to be doing my chain, and then I'll be back to let you know how many I did. So I have completed my chain, and I have here 450 chains. You can do a little bit shorter or longer if you want, but then it's going to be up to you. So now you can fasten off. And then I'm going to be creating a little knot here at the end. Cutting my yarn. And then I'm going to be creating a tassel just like what I did with the skirt. So I'm going to be cutting 4 pieces of yarn. These ones are about 23 centimeters long, as you can see right here. So now you're just going to go through the very first chain in your chain, and then you're just going to be passing the yarns through that chain. And then you're going to be creating a loop right at the top and then just passing all of the rest of the yarn through the loop and then pull tight. So now I'm going to be doing the same thing to the other side, so my other strap, and then I'll be back to show you guys how I'm going to be putting everything together. So as you can see, I have both of my straps completed, and now the only thing that I have to do is just go through a few stitches here on the back, and then we are done with the top. So what I'm going to be doing is just creating a crisscross here on the back and then creating a bow at the end. So this is the final project. I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you give a massive thumbs up and also don't forget to subscribe so you can join the Cutiecality family. And now I have my top and also my skirt. I'm going to be leaving both for you guys in the description below for you guys to check it out if you want to make both of them. And I loved so much how both of them turned out. You can use as a 2 pieces or you can use them separately. So that's going to be up to you. So I'll see you guys soon on my next video. Bye bye!